Hi Vanessa.
Hi Emma.
Hi. So this is the Community Mind Matter cat. Oh, start again.
Take two.
This is the Community Mind Chatters podcast.
Yeah.
We do this once a month. This month we're talking about triggers, traumatic stress disorder based triggers, with Vanessa's experience around that. And we'll start off with how we usually start off and talk about what we've learnt this month. So Vanessa, what have you learnt this month?
Say no.
Oh.
Because we don't say it enough. And it doesn't have to be in a horrible way. It's just no.
It's just a 2-letter word, isn't it?
But the thing is, because if you say yes and then you really mean no, then that's when we feel we get mad with ourselves for saying yes and really we mean no. So yeah, I do say no a lot more because it's about being kind to yourself as well. You know, that word, and not always having to explain. Sometimes you need to explain why you can't do a certain thing, but sometimes you don't. You're just going to say, I can't, sorry, I can't. Because it's your life. And if you're really not letting somebody down, it's no. So no's my favourite word this month.
It's about putting boundaries in place with people.
Yeah, definitely.
And just giving them expectations, because sometimes when we say no, actually the other person isn't as concerned as we thought they might be. We feel like we're letting somebody down, but actually they're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
let's do it another time, or oh right, oh I'm sorry to hear that, but is that okay? I can sort something out. And quite often we think, oh no, we're going to let someone down, or
yes,
bad, and we say yes, and then we put all of this sort of responsibility on ourselves. When, like you said, you can just say no.
I think it is. How do I explain it? It's without being horrible. You just I've practiced it quite a lot, but not to be horrible to anybody. It's just it's just sometimes life's busy, and we try and ram everything in, and then you think, oh, I really can't do that today, or I'm not feeling up to that today, but then we'll push ourselves to do it. And I've learned that you've got to say no sometimes for our own mental health, our own well-being, because if you're going to moan about it afterwards, it's horrible. And if you've got family members or somebody like, well, you should have said no, and you think, yeah, I should have said no. So then you've got added pressure because you haven't said no. But I think we are all afraid of upsetting people. I think it is about upsetting people. Because if somebody's been looking forward to something and then you say, sorry, can't happen, or no, or, they can take it the wrong way. It just varies, doesn't it? It varies what the circumstances is. Should I say? Can't speak.
Yeah, and 9 times out of the 10, that other person is, quite obliging, and they don't mind that you've said no, or they're quite happy that you've said no, because actually they can probably see you, getting snowed under anyway, and they're thinking, oh, well done for saying no. So and it's quite a simple word to say. Everybody can say it, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Words in our vocabulary when we're growing up as kids is no.
Yeah.
My kids saying it quite a lot.
Yeah, kids always say no, don't they? Yeah. But then when we say no, they don't like it. It's like,
yeah. I think my learnings from this month probably a little bit similar, but mine's more around prioritizing things, prioritizing, I think it's more about prioritizing life around my business. And there's been so much change, and one of the biggest things that I've had to deal with in the past few weeks is the fact that we're coming out of lockdown and things are getting really, really busy now.
Yeah.
and it's now about whereas before I could fit everything in, now I'm struggling a bit. So it's about prioritizing what's important, and sometimes those things that you don't those things that you quite enjoy, you can't always do them. All the things that you want to do, all the things that you think you should be doing, you can't always do it. So it's about just having a step back and going, what is important to me right now, and concentrating on those things at the top of the the chain, and just prioritizing what's going to push you forward. What do you need to prioritize, like family, job, and then go from there. And again, that means that you have to say no to a few things.
And it's just juggling, isn't it? It's just juggling. I think you are right. Coming out of lockdown, it has been quite hard, because things you were doing in lockdown were a bit more relaxed. Now you're going back to some normality. It's like, right, especially for me, because I'm setting more groups up. So the one-to-ones that I had before, because I'd have all day to do those, because I wouldn't have groups on, now I'm like fitting things around it. And it's not, I've got this, that, oh, I can fit you in there, but then it's leaving me short. And it is. And I'm like, oh, right, I'm going to have to do something about this. I'm going to have to sort of like, because I want to be able to give that service as well. But it is about juggling it all, isn't it? And it's about,
and prioritizing. And then, like you said, it's prioritizing yourself, because actually, if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anyone.
I can't help anybody.
And I say that to mums, a lot of mums who I see in my therapy room say, oh, I always put my kids first, or I always put everybody else first. Because I have to do. But actually, the most unselfish act is to put yourself first, because you can't look after other people if you're not on top of
absolutely. And I think it's took me years to remind myself about, or even learn that, because I didn't. I was not in a hole. I was a bit of a people pleaser, where I didn't want to upset anybody, but then the person that was getting upset the most was myself, because I was always worried about other people. Oh my God, I can't do that. I can't, I must do it. And it just then snowballed into me feeling quite down about things. So now I think, well, I live with me. I'm with me 24/7. Really, the only person I should be pleasing is myself.
Yeah, and when you're happy, when you're feeling in control,
absolutely,
that reflects onto everybody else, and then they pick up on that vibe, don't they? If you're feeling down and dumps, they pick up on that vibe. So it's about creating the best version of you to go out.
Yeah, totally.
And with lockdown, we've gone from that change of, I remember at the start of lockdown where there was lots of different rules in place, and everybody was quite confused about what we should and what we shouldn't be doing. And we're kind of going through that phase now of coming out of lockdown. And again, we're not sure what we should be doing, what we shouldn't. Yeah. And it's creating quite a bit of tension, isn't it? Amongst everybody, really. And we're going through that change again.
And a lot of people with mental health, the change can be really hard for them. Really hard for them. It can be sort of like, and you've got to think through all this. They've had so many changes, and there'll be a lot of people that are fearing of coming out of lockdown. They won't feel safe. There'll be a lot of different, and mental health has rocketed. It's just even those people that didn't have it before, or didn't have anxiety, have anxiety now. It's just gone a bit mental with it all. Sorry about that, and that, but it's absolutely true. It's gone. I'm getting new people that have never had mental health before. And it's overwhelming. It's really overwhelming for them.
I think the one safe thing, the one consistent thing that we do have is we know that it will change again, and nothing is the same. It will change going forward, but at the moment we're going through this transitional period of change, and it will take time to get through it, but we will get through it.
And I think now, especially with me being able to do more groups, and I've got more things going on, it's keeping them busy. It's keeping them, keeping them focused on something, like they've got the activities. I've got a lot more things going on. Instead of just sitting around and talking, we've got sort of like a little plan of doing something, and they've got something to think of. So I think if you've got a focus and a plan and a routine, it's about having a routine. This is a different routine again. It's different for all of us. You can move forward a bit faster than sitting, because I think when you do sit there and you think, oh, it's overwhelming, and we start thinking too much about it, that's when we get stuck. But if we sort of like go, right, I've got this on a Monday, this on a Tuesday, this on a Wednesday, and sort of like go, and make a clear plan, because I think it does overwhelm people.
Yeah, and it's all about taking that tiny little step forward. When we feel stuck, the only way to get out of that sort of negative cycle is to take one little step, and it doesn't have to be massive. It only has to be a tiny thing, and that means you've made a change. And it can be just the tiniest little thing. It might be picking the phone up, calling a friend. It might be making an appointment to go and see somebody like you. It might be going for a walk. It could be anything, but it might even be getting out of bed in the morning. If you're depressed and you're not going out, it might just be getting up and getting dressed. Just the smallest little thing.
Yeah, totally.
That means you're moving forward. It doesn't
totally agree.
You don't have to move mountains. It just has to.
No, I think small steps is the best way. And everybody's recovery, everybody's mental health, we're all different, and we all work differently. All our lives are different. So what works for one won't work for another. Exactly. But it's about, for me, and what I do, it's about sharing our experiences of what's helped us. And it's about, I'm always a great believer, it's just try it once. And if you don't like it, you know, because if I hadn't tried the things that I've got now, my goodness, I wouldn't be here, because I was so negative about those things, because I was in such a dark place. I was like, nah, it's never going to work. How's that work? Blah, 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 rubbish. But you know what? Because I tried it and kept focused and did it slowly, it worked. All those things that, and now it's teaching other people to do the same. Or find your way. There's always, I'm always a great believer, it's finding our way, because not everybody's the same.
Everybody's journey is different, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right then, Vanessa. So we're talking today about, well, we've talked a little bit about post-traumatic stress. I can't get my words out today. Post-traumatic stress disorder with Mark in a previous podcast, which was a brilliant one. If anybody wants to, really, really good. Where Mark shared his experiences, but we know that we touched on a few of your experiences. But today you wanted to talk about triggers. And can you explain to me and everybody what triggers are in the first instance, and why do you think we have, or you can have, triggers with post-traumatic stress disorder?
I think when you've been through a trauma, and it just depends what the trauma is, because everybody's trauma is different. I think when you've been through a trauma and there's certain things that have happened to you, or certain, if it happens when you've come out of that trauma, I hope I explain this for everybody right. This is my take on it. When you come out, then you sort of like, because you're in fight mode when you're in that trauma, you haven't got time to, whatever it is, time to really think about anything. You're just surviving, you're just getting through it, you just every day. But then when you sort of like come out, and it can happen years later. Mine happened years later. It didn't happen straight after I left that, whatever it was. It happened years later. And it's like, in a sense, it's like reliving it again, because I hadn't dealt with it. I always, if you've been through the trauma or you've been through something, I always recommend get that counselling and get it as soon as you can, because you've got to face it. It doesn't go away, it'll stay there. You've got to get the treatment. For me, I didn't. I was like, oh, I'm big, strong, I can handle this. I couldn't, because literally when I had my breakdown, that's because I hadn't handled it. My CPN said this had to come out. You had to go through this. And it was awful. So with a trigger, it could be anything from a smell, a sound, a tone in somebody's voice. And because I've heard lots of toxic things, it could be somebody treating me a bit toxic, you know, or something like that. And it will be awful. It'll make me feel awful.
So is the trigger then does it remind you then of that
Yes.
trauma? So something that happened in that trauma, and it's almost like your brain said, I know what happened last time, that I smelt that smell. It relates back to the trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
You move into that fight mode again.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
But I think with me, because I have worked so hard on myself, I still get that if I get that, I mean, I still have to be careful of my trigger. So I get that trigger, I can handle it a bit better. It wouldn't take me back to that person. It'll just be, I've been here before. That's happened somewhere. I wouldn't then think about what's happened. My brain, because I've worked so hard on mindfulness and, you know, on myself, I sort of like get myself, but it would still be, I don't like this feeling. I've had this before.
But
so
if you hadn't had the mindfulness and you hadn't had a way of coping with it, do you think you could almost go back to that trauma?
Yes.
Then the sort of the flashbacks and the, you know, the
absolutely
really strong physical and mental responses to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know I would.
So that the fact that you have had that counselling and you've had that you've done all the mindfulness and the meditation and all those tools that you found that help, that's enabled you to almost cope with what's going on.
Yeah, I cope, but I mean, there's things that have happened with certain traumas that I've been through that I do still have to fight with it. I really do have to fight with it. I really have to ground myself and really, really try hard. And if I don't, then I could quite easily go, boof. I could then go back to where I was and where I don't want to be. Yeah. And I could get, you know, it's a strange, I can't explain the feeling that you get through your body. It's a horrible feeling. It's like your stomach's churning. It's like, you know, you can't breathe. You get very, if you're out and about, especially if you're feeling very, very vulnerable, you can get very sort of like twitchy. You can get, if you're talking to somebody, and I notice this with myself, not so much now, but when I used to get anxious, I would talk very quickly. You'd be like, la, 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 la. If I was in a situation where I didn't feel comfortable, I'd be like talking rubbish, literally, because I just didn't want to be quiet. I just didn't want to show people really what was going on with me.
Yeah.
It's like showing, you know, I didn't want to show everybody that was vulnerable. It's about, you know, because I think this is a very personal condition that is not widely, as far as I'm concerned, widely talked about as much, because everybody's trauma is different and not everybody recognises the signs. I mean, I do, because I've got post-traumatic stress disorder, but when in a normal setting, you would, and I know it's horrible, but people would say, well, they were a bit strange, but I wouldn't see it like that. I would think that person's, you know, struggling there.
I think a lot of the time, I think before I did my training, I would, if I thought of post-traumatic stress disorder, I would think of an older guy who's left the army.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm thinking male. So
yeah.
You know, your mind goes straight to that thing. So that's my sort of go-to for PTSD, where actually women PTSD after giving birth.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't affect just, you know, ex-army, ex-forces. It could be anybody in the street that you're talking to, and therefore it can be, you know, and when people are experiencing these triggers like you mentioned, how could somebody, if I was to be in a crowded place, for example, and I experienced somebody doing something that I found quite odd or different to everybody else because they were experiencing a trigger, what do you think I might notice about them? what do you think I could?
You would notice, I mean, usually when you would notice that they would be looking around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They would be, you know, because I think with especially for me, I mean, not everybody's the same. I'm on high alert all the time.
Yeah.
But that's me. I mean, somebody else can, you know, I'm on high alert. So somebody could be sort of like going like that, or they could even be crying. They could even be sort of like, you know, shaking. Shaking for me was a big thing. You know, if I went outside, I would shake.
Yeah.
And I really didn't want to be outside. And I was not happy until I got back into my safe place. And that was my home.
Right.
You know, and that was the place I only felt safe, because I didn't feel safe outside.
Yeah.
And I'd be...
I'm just... no, go on.
And sensitive to noise as well. My ears would be very, very listening. And you know what? I still have that. I still, you know, if anything's going on, I'm like, oh, what's going on? And well, you've noticed it yourself. Yeah. As long as I know what it is, I can deal with it. But if there's a noise and I don't know what it is, I will investigate and I will find that noise. Then I'll relax. It's just certain things, but I'm happy with that. I live with it. It's just part of me now. Where some, you know, my children accept it. I think it's about accepting. I can't help what's happened to me. I can't help having this condition. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard for other people if you've not, because it's so personal to me. Nobody else could understand what I was going through or what I'm feeling, and for anybody to say, well, you're not right to feel that, or you should be doing this. Nah. Let that person.
Just casting my mind back to Mark's description of him being in Morrison's with a shopping basket, and he heard the forklift in the house moving or reversing.
Yes.
The siren, didn't he? And he sort of broke down in tears in the middle of the supermarket. And he mentioned that all he needed was for somebody to ask him if he was okay.
Yeah, and they didn't.
Which was unfortunate. But if you were to have an experience like that, what would be the best way for people to respond around you? I'm just trying to give people advice as to if they were ever to come across somebody who was having a trigger, what would be the best way to help that person?
Just ask them if they're okay, if they need to go outside. I mean, for me, if it had happened to me, if I saw somebody in that situation, I'd go, but I know, I'd go up to that person and go, you okay? Do you need to go outside? I would definitely make sure that they got somewhere where they felt safe. Yeah. Because if you're in that mode, oh my goodness, sometimes you're not even thinking, you just got, and it can look like you are a mad person, just, because you can't expect, and then sometimes we're in that zone, you're not even thinking, you're just going, I need to go somewhere safe, I need to get out of this shop, I need to get away from this, and you just go. I mean, I don't do crowds, and that is for that reason, because I just don't like crowds. So my groups are small, because an overwhelming crowd, it's just, I'm getting better with it.
It's almost like when we're in that fight or flight mode, when we're in that in that bottom part of our brain, the limbic system, that's the part of the brain that's sort of on high alert. The amygdala in the middle is sort of on fire, and it cuts off any access to the top part of our brain where we can think of solutions and we can think about things. And we have no access to that. So all the brain wants to do is get you into a safe place. So would it be wise to say to that person, how can I help you to feel safe?
Definitely. Just, definitely. And I have done it before. I've seen people, I've gone, are you okay? I think asking somebody if they're okay is the first thing. Hi, are you okay? I mean, everybody's different. I mean, you can judge it and think, I'm not going to approach that person. Or you can do, majority of people, they do just want, because if you're out shopping on your own, it can, and something's happening. I think this is probably that's why, I liked what I was doing, because I think, having that person, even if shops did it a bit more, have that safe room in the shop, or somebody on duty in the shop going, right, somebody, because instead of seeing that person, oh, there might be a problem there, that person probably is not well, or there's something going on. It might be an anniversary, it might be, the world is full of all sorts of things that happen to people. And we just look at we just look at what's going on the outside. We don't always know what's going inside. So just having somebody friendly to say, hi, are you okay? Taking them to the side, being kind to people. Instead of going, watch that person, they might be up to no good. Well, clearly not. Then asking for help. Majority of people are asking for help, but they're too scared to ask for it.
And do you find that people with PTSD, would they avoid certain things because they're afraid the trigger might happen?
Yes.
Like you mentioned, not going into crowds, probably not wanting to go to that supermarket again.
Yeah.
And to avoid that response happening again.
Definitely. I avoided stuff for absolutely years just to keep myself safe. And it impacted on my life big time, because I avoided everything. Everything that I knew, so I could keep myself safe. So I know that a trigger wouldn't happen. So I knew that I was okay. I don't do it as much. There's still some things I've got to overcome, but that comes with time. You can't put pressure on yourself. But I'm very much more in control of me. But I think it's okay as long as it's a healthy avoidance, because if you do something and it's going to affect your life completely, then you've got to get over it. Yeah. But if you know that it doesn't really matter, you can avoid that, then avoid it. I think, it's healthy to do those things, because it's taking control then. Instead of it taking control of you, you're taking control of it.
I guess it becomes a problem when it's you're avoiding day-to-day things that are...
Absolutely. And I did.
Getting in the way of you living your life, like having to go to the supermarket and buy food. We need to do that.
Couldn't. I was lucky. I had an older son, and that used to come in. He used to work, and then at weekend he would say, do you need any shopping, Mum? So I'd have the Lidl's pamphlet come through the door, so I'd circle things, and I'd say milk, bread and everything. He'd do my shopping. So I avoided going out the house. I wouldn't even go to the corner shop. I wouldn't do it. So if I didn't have milk for a cup of tea, I'd wait 12 hours until he got home to have that cup of tea, because I wouldn't want to go out, because I just didn't want to be around people. I didn't want to walk down the road. It really did control my life, completely control my life. And it wasn't good. It wasn't healthy.
And now you're at the point now where you mentioned that you go out now, you run.
You can't keep me in now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely. You're definitely an outdoors kind of girl.
Oh, love outdoors.
So you've obviously overcome a lot of it. And what would you say was the biggest thing that enabled you to start to make those changes?
I was very, very lucky, because I had a lovely support worker that would sit with me. The first 6 weeks when I first met her, I wouldn't leave the house. It was her role was to come in and take me for a walk.
Okay.
And first 6 weeks, I wouldn't. Do you know what? But the thing was, I'd lost trust in people as well. So it wasn't just going outside. It was literally, I didn't want to get anybody, I won't go into the traumas I had, but, I didn't want to have people close to me, because those ones closest to me had hurt me in the past, and I really, really didn't want that closeness. So it was a big trust issue with me. This lady comes into my house, she's in my space, she's in my home. I don't know you. So for those 6 weeks, I got to know her. And then slowly one day she said to me, do you want to go out for a walk? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. So we did. We went for a short walk. She could see clearly I wasn't happy. She could see clearly that it was a big strain on me. She could see it. But over time, she got to know my condition. So when like there was a shop that was too busy, she'd go, perhaps not go in here, let's go somewhere else. And to be honest, we had her for 2 years and she got to know me so well, you know, and it was lovely because the trust thing was slowly with a stranger. I got the trust thing again. So slowly.
Yeah, and it was like those small steps we talked about before, where letting somebody into your house.
Yeah,
that was the first step.
Yeah.
The second step was letting them into your house every week for 6 weeks, getting to know them enough so you felt comfortable to take a walk. And then you probably, I don't know, you could go a little bit further each time, maybe.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, she became, you know, because I mean, I hadn't been to the doctor. So, you know, doctor's appointments and stuff like that used to stress me out. But I had somebody to go with me. So that was really nice, you know, because I wouldn't, if I had to go on my own, I wouldn't have done it. So she used to go, you've got a doctor's appointment, we're going to her. You know, she was sort of like, she was that person that kicked me up the bum. And it was great because I needed that. I really did needed that because I'd given up. I'd given up on absolutely everything. I didn't want to be in that outside world. That outside world was, to me, was just not nice. I didn't want to know. I didn't trust anything in that world. But in my home, I trusted everything. I trusted, you know, I mean, I didn't have any friends. I'd lost all the contact with everybody because I think with this condition, it's such a personal thing. How could anybody help me? How could anybody? Because I couldn't even help myself. So to let people in and help me, I mean, it was a slow process. But once I started letting her in, things got easier for me. And then my confidence came. And then, you know, and then she'd come round and I go, I went for a walk this week on my own. She'd go, oh my God, you know, over the 2 years, things. And then she was just like, I don't recognise the person you are today. But she'd always been there. She just didn't want, I just didn't want to do it. I just did not want to do it. It was just like, I can't be bothered.
That's a really fantastic example of just that tiny little step today and that tiny little step the next day. And it's, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. It's just about making sure that you're moving forward. And if you do take a step back, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Tomorrow you could move forward again. Yeah. And
take each day as it comes. Take each day as it comes. And I'm a great believer in that. Sometimes every hour. Take each hour as it comes. It's not about, what is about learning not to put that pressure on yourselves. It's learning to be kind to yourself. And with the mindfulness, because I used to do the mindfulness in between, and she'd give me little homework stuff to go, oh my God, the power of that, as well as my support worker, it worked a treat for me. But then I was a different, not a different person completely, but I'd sculpted myself into this person that could cope. But I sculpted in this person that was strong enough to not let that stuff in again. That happened. I got to be a new version of myself. Yeah. I learned about who I was. I learned where I'd gone wrong. I was on a different path. I was on a completely different path. And all those things, yeah, we all make mistakes, but I've learned by those mistakes. I've used those mistakes to move myself forward. So it was just, for me, my journey, as it was hard, I don't regret it, because it's got me where I am today. And helping people, it's just so, for me, it's rewarding. I've been helped, so I want to help other people, because I know, I just wish some people sometimes, not in a hard way, we just wish people knew how hard it had been for me, because people just see this now, the Vanessa that goes out and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and I'm doing this. But I had to work at being this person.
And what advice would you give anybody who's really struggling right now, today? What advice would you give them to?
I would say, try and seek help, especially professional help. You always have to go down the professional route first before you do anything. Make sure you get that appointment with your doctor. Speak to your doctor. They can refer you on to whatever service it is. And then it's really, for me, it's research. When I was diagnosed from the hospital with my condition, it was such a relief. The relief was amazing. I was, I had it, but I didn't see it as a negative. I'm thinking, right, I can work with this now. I can work with this. And I just watched other people, a bit like people are going to watch this and say, well, I can relate to that. I was watching podcasts, I was researching stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. And it was just researching and thinking, yeah, I'm going to try that. It's about trying something, but it is about getting that professional help and speaking to somebody that you can trust as well. That's a big thing. Somebody's not going to go, oh, well, you know, it'll be all right, get on with it, because that's the wrong attitude. It ain't going to be all right. No, don't mean that horribly, but it's not. When somebody's got this condition, it's a journey. And
sometimes it's, you know, the first step before getting professional help is talking to somebody you trust.
Absolutely.
Quite often people come into my therapy room with somebody who's supporting them and coming along with them.
Yeah.
Because they are just that too, you know, they don't feel safe enough to
No.
go meet a complete stranger who they know nothing about and tell them about their life. It's a massive step.
Yeah.
So sometimes that first step can be just calling a friend, calling a family member, saying, I just need some support with this. Can you help me?
It is. It's about, and I think it's with for me, it was about not being judged for having this condition, because I can't help this. This isn't my fault. You know, I can't help this. It's one of those things, you know, I have to live with this. But it's about, you know, I know if I know some triggers are coming up, like certain dates or certain events that have happened, I have to be extra kind to myself in that week or those days leading up to it. I have to prepare myself for it, you know, and cope the way I can cope now. Before, I totally go to pieces. I'd just I'd be a right mess. Now I know what I have to do to prevent that happening. And it's about learning about the condition, learning about you and what you've been through, and then just processing and moving in a way that you can cope. It's just, you know,
that sounds familiar with me and my OCD, where before I hated the fact that I had it.
Yeah.
Now I'm really at peace with it.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually I'm happy about it, because that's what makes me me now. You know,
yeah.
You know, I'd rather not have it probably, but actually, I don't know, actually probably I want to keep it. Because
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
because it makes me who I am, and I don't really care about it anymore. It doesn't bother me like it used to. And like you said, you've got ways of coping with it, dealing with it. You know, when, you know, so you have triggers, I have a stress build up that sign off, which is probably a similar thing actually. But you know, you can get to the point where you can accept it, and you know, and move forward.
I think you have to accept. That's one of the things that I had to do. I had to accept that I have this condition, and I had to accept that I had to deal with it. I had to deal with it, because if you don't deal with it, you're just going to be there. And you're right about it making the person I am. You know, there's lots of positives to having this condition. Believe me, lots of positives, because I'm so clued up on stuff now. You know, it was just, you know, and I can help so many people because I've got this knowledge. And you know, the traumas that I've been through actually can help somebody when they come and sit on the bench, or they come, you know, and I can sit there and because I've experienced probably something they've been through. I'm like, I know how to help you here. You know, I'm very, very, you know, I'm very private about what I've been through, but that's my private stuff. But, you know, I wouldn't tell, you know, some people know, some people don't. If I want to experience, I would want to tell somebody that to make them feel better. Because I do think when you open up about your experiences, you can help. Somebody looks and goes, I'm not the only one, because you can't feel lonely with this condition. You can feel really lonely. You're on your own. Nobody can possibly understand. But when you do present and go, I've been there. And sometimes I'll go, I know how you feel. I've been there. This is what's happened to me.
It's quite a relief.
And how I coped with it and how I got forward. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember reading the OCD website, and literally crying, thinking,
Yeah.
oh, that happens to you as well. Oh,
Yeah.
not crazy.
It's lovely, and as I said, I've got a few in the community that I work with that again don't talk about their experiences, because that, as they say to me, nobody understands. But when I speak to them, it's like, because I know that I'm not going to pressurize them, I'm not going to, you know, I always say to them, take each day, don't put pressure on yourself and everything, because they're getting that guidance and they're getting that it's okay for me to have these days. They're coping a bit better. And like I said, you know, if certain people don't understand it, that's okay, because not everybody's going to understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about you accepting that there's nothing you can do to change what's happened, nothing you can change to your reactions to it, because you can't. I can't change how I react to it. That's just part of what it is. But I can cope with it a bit better. I can put things in place so I'm not hurt by it, because it's about hurting yourself again. If you've had a trauma, you don't want to relive it again and again and again and go through it on your head. Yes, it's happened. It's about moving forward and going, right, yeah, that happened. Working through it professionally, whichever way you want to work through it, and actually tucking it in bed and going, there you go, it's gone now. It's gone. Yeah. It's, you know, because you have to move forward, because if not, it's gonna just always be there. And I didn't want that to happen. I thought, I don't want to be this person that's feeling like this every day. And to be honest with you, if it is a trauma where it's people and blah blah blah, whatever it is, I wanted to live my life and I'm happy as I could. You know, I wasn't going to let them stop me. That ain't happening. But it's building yourself resilient enough to be able to cope with all that, because some people can't. You know, and post-traumatic stress disorder with me is very much a sort of like it takes time. You know, 8 years ago for me, whoa, I was still bad. Yeah. 8 years on, never get rid of the condition, but I'm living a healthier life with it.
Yeah. And it might take somebody 2 years, 3 years, 10 years.
Yes, absolutely.
But knowing that, you know, if you're at day one, it sounds like a long time and you want it to be over now, but actually within those 8 years,
yeah,
every day's gotten better.
Oh, yeah. And this is why I said to people, this is why I say research, because that research will keep your mind off things, because I found research and listening to other people's stories actually helped me. Listening to what they've been through, how they coped with it and everything like that. But it takes your mind off your problems in a sense, and you're learning. It's about learning. Once you learn about how to do that, and then it's just about writing a plan. Right, that if I do that certain thing, it's going to be triggering me. What can I do to stop that trigger happening? And it's about planning the lead up to it, instead of just going, you know, and I did it for many years. There'd be certain things going, oh my God, I'm dreading this, I'm dreading that. And I'd get myself so worked up that actually when that day came, it was horrible. But now, still the same thing, but I'm like, right, what am I going to do? Days before, I have a plan. And it's sticking to that. And it's being quite firm with yourself as well. Because I think a lot of us just go, oh, I'm going to flake. I'm just going to, yeah, I understand. But you've got to fight. I know it's horrible, but you do have to fight this condition. Because if not, the condition's going to win. And I'm a winner, not a loser. You know, it's one of those, you know, it's not taking control of me. But, you know, not everybody has that strength. And it does take time, a long time for some people.
Yeah.
But there is help out there. Research, and just finding out is the biggest thing for me.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm sure that's going to help a lot of people.
Oh, I hope so.
And even if you don't suffer with PTSD, it's nice to sort of understand it. So
yeah,
if you are in a position where you can help somebody, then
yeah, definitely.
You know, you've got the tools to be able to do that and recognise it and understand what it is. And if you are somebody who is really struggling, then there is help out there. Obviously, getting in contact with
definitely.
And you know, there's so many different routes for you to go down, and it's just about trying them out and just maybe getting somebody to help you with it as well.
Yeah, I think the same. I think the same, Emma. I think it is. It's just asking for help, and it's about trusting that person that you can confide in,
Yeah.
and just, it's like bearing all. It's a very thing. It's a hard thing to do, but once you have done it,
Yeah.
it gets easier. It just gets easier and easier. And it is a trust thing. You've got to make sure that the person you're telling is not going to judge you, because straight away that could do more damage. It's just finding, and there is help out there. There's so much help out there. It's just finding that person.
So I hope everybody's enjoyed that, and it's given them some useful ideas or thoughts, things to ponder on. So we will see you again next month. What have we got? We're in July now, aren't we? So August, yeah, we're doing a bit even more different next time, aren't we?
I know that podcast is going to be good. That's going to be a good podcast. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, this is going to be a bit different. So yeah, look forward to seeing you all then. Take care and have a wonderful few weeks. Bye.
Bye.